What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Going the Distance MMA. Today we are going to be breaking down LFA 227 betting and predictions. And running this one solo again. Owen is still on vacation, but he will be back for the next card. This isn't a horrible card. It's something for a Friday night. You know, who hates betting on MMA? On Fridays. Then obviously Saturday we have the Mexico card for UFC, which is something to look forward to. So a little appetizer before it starts. And I guess we will jump right into it. To start, the first fight on the main card at women's flyweight, it is Mariana Piccolo versus Zoe Nowicki. Nowicki minus 330, Piccolo plus 270. And I guess we could start on the Piccolo side. I mean, she's quite a bit bigger here. It shows only, you see only 3 inches of height, but I mean 10 inches of reach in any weight class is unbelievable, especially in women's MMA. I feel like reach is really important, has a huge impact on the fight. But she's only 23 years old, doesn't have the greatest record at 5-3, but she is 3-1 in her last 4. She's got very quick hands, like I said before, good size advantage, great on top. Good rear naked choke, good BJJ, good submissions. She does get taken down at times, but she always will work to get up. And again, at only 23, these people are always improving. They're still really young. She's out of a good camp. She beat Taylor Malden, which is a pretty solid win. She was a pretty hype prospect on the LFA scene. She beat her how many fights ago? What was that, 4 fights ago, where she got a face crank in the first round? Like good back take. Malden's a great wrestler, which Nowicki is a really good grappler here. So that matchup is a little bit similar. I think Nowicki is a better wrestler than Malden, but I mean still similar archetype, so you don't hate to see that. She held her own. She lost probably her worst loss on her record was to Elizabeth Rodriguez in a split. I mean, I thought she won. Rodriguez only 2-3, which isn't a great look. But again, she was only 22 or even 21. So like you give them a pass. I think she's solid. I think she's definitely the better striker. Better pure jiu-jitsu 100%. Bigger, more experienced in MMA, even though she's 2 years younger. I don't know. I think if she could somehow keep it standing, this is really live. But Nowicki on the other side, 2 wins by finish. Invicta girl, which you always love to see. Invicta has really high levels women's MMA, obviously. Pretty much gets a takedown in all of her fights. I just don't think her striking's great. Like, I think it's definitely work in progress. I mean, she's only 25, so again, you give them a pass. And she's definitely a high prospect. She will probably get takedowns here, but I think Piccolo can make her work and maybe get up. And again, like, you really don't want to be laying this kind of chalk on too young in women's MMA. So for that reason, I probably will take Piccolo. But I will say Nowicki has shown great improvements fight to fight. But I don't know if it's enough to warrant this price tag. So give me Piccolo. I think decision. I don't think there's a finish. I think if there's a finish, it's Nowicki getting something like maybe a positional TKO. But I don't see it. I think he goes over. So Piccolo, I don't mind the dog shot. I think that's a pretty crazy price. What is she at now? What is Piccolo at now? Yeah, 270 still. Okay. Yeah, I like that. I think it's a good spot for her. Oh, man. Next fight up, Shiro Ladd versus Isaiah Pinson. We'll start on the Ladd side. Obviously, the younger brother of Aspen Ladd, who's been UFC vet, fought in PFL a ton. Pretty well-known name in women's MMA. He is 3-1. He's 6'3" with a 74-inch reach, while Isaiah Pinson on the other side is 4-2. He's 30, 6'2" with a 71-inch reach. And yeah, this is another one where, I mean, you can't love Ladd after he just got face planted by that boxer as like a minus 2,000 favorite in his last. He looked terrible. Walked right into that, I believe it was a counter. Like literally with his hands down. Joe Taylor, 35 seconds in. He was like minus 1,400. Gets KO'd stiff, literally asleep on the mat. I mean, Joe Taylor was 42 in his retirement fight. Never had great takedown defense. Has good striking, but he was like, I think that was his first finish in some time. So that's not a great look. But I mean, with Shiro Ladd, you kind of know what you're getting. Like, solid enough wrestler, will go for it. Has a decent enough jab to get inside, but you wouldn't love him striking for long periods of time. The fight against Pedro Lay Jr., who's not a horrible fighter, he kept losing top position, which again, you don't love because that's his game, right? He needs takedowns. If he's in a striking fight, you will never like him at chalk. And yeah, I do think this line's a little bit off, though. I think it's a way better matchup. I know he got fluked against Joe Taylor, which, like, it is what it is. I mean, Taylor, solid enough striker, even though he was short on knockouts. So like I think because of that loss, he's down to like minus 290 in the twos, and I think that is playable. Like I personally won't bet him again until he proves that he's trustworthy, because that was disgusting what happened the last time, and also just because he doesn't keep top control well. I wouldn't play him here, but I mean this is a good matchup for him. Isaiah Pinson, I don't think's crazy. I guess he's solid. He has a salty record at 4-2, but his losses are to Abraham Babley, who's a good fighter, right? PFL, just fought in PFL Africa, killed some South African guy not too long ago. I think Babley's pretty good, and that was at heavyweight, so Pinson was giving up size. He has a win over Denzel Freeman by split in PFL, like in 2023. I mean, not much happened in that fight. He showed a decent game, like decent takedown defense. But yeah, he doesn't, when he lets his hands go like he did against Freeman, he looks good and serviceable, but he doesn't do that enough. Like, I don't love his counter punching, which is where Ladd really struggles. Pinson will stand right in front of you. I think he shells up too much for my liking. I think he gets taken down. Like, Ladd will double jab in, get pretty much a free double. I mean, Pinson off his back is horrible. Like, I don't see him being able to get up, even though Ladd's not the most positionally sound fighter. I just think that's, like, kind of a disaster waiting to happen if Pinson gets taken down, especially early. He fought Vitor Rezendie, I believe his name was, like back in the day, who was only like 2-0, and he showed a pretty complete game, like mixing takedowns, solid enough striking. He needs to be on the front foot here, and he doesn't do that enough. So for that reason, I'll probably take Cheryl Ladd. I don't know if either of them gets finished. Like, I think Ladd could easily positionally TKO him, but I wouldn't love that. So I would probably stay away from a prop. I guess give me Ladd, even though he burnt pretty much everybody last time. Brutally. But yeah, I think Cheryl Ladd will be fine here. The meme fight of the century. Next up at middleweight, we have Theo Hag, who's minus 1,400 favorite against Lance Wright. Hag, 6'1", 29 years old, 6'2" with a 77-inch reach. Lance Wright on the other side, 7'4", 33, 6'2" with 75-inch reach. Hag has been training with Daniel Cormier, I believe, out in California, which is like a good group of guys. And tell me he does not look, especially in the Bellator gloves, tell me he does not look like a poor man's Aaron Jeffrey, like way poor man's Aaron Jeffrey. Aaron Jeffrey's solid, could strike. Hag can't. Good wrestler, though. You might remember him from Contender Series where he got TKO'd pretty much instantly by Cesare Olejacek, Mikey O Jr. Not a bad loss. Cesare's a good fighter, but I mean, just to get put out that quickly, like you don't love. You could say it was back of the head, whatever. He got sprawled on, and then didn't really have a backup plan, which you don't really love to see. But great wrestler, good power wrestler. All those guys out of DC's camp always are. Against Said Magomedov, not that Said Magomedov, but against one of them, he showed a pretty good rear naked choke after takedowns. He will look for the back. I don't love his striking, though. Like, I feel like if he's ever caught striking, it's a bad bet if he's a big favorite. But I guess it is improving. He is a big dude. Maybe he could figure it out one day, but I just don't love it. Dylan DeBeats is another person who he had a nice rear naked choke against a couple fights ago. Like, good setup, good back take, good takedowns. And yeah, I think he will be exposed like Ciari did, but I mean, Lance Wright just is not that guy. Like, I don't know what's up with this guy. He has, all of his wins are pretty much by submission, but he's also been subbed in all 4 of his losses, which is disastrous in this fight, because Hag will get him to the mat. It just is a matter of when. And I think Wright's problem is he has literally no striking. He's very stiff on the feet, doesn't move well, isn't really defensively sound. And he's good with submissions on top, but off his back, it's like white belt shit, I'm not going to lie. So yeah, you just don't love to see that against someone like Theo Hag, who's a really dominant wrestler. Obviously, 1,400's not great, especially he's coming off of his loss. It was by TKO. But I just don't think Wright exposes any of those problems. He has a submission loss to Austin Jones, who's not great, who's like, I think, 12-9 at the time. And yeah, like, these people who are getting submission wins make Wright look like he's never grappled before, which is bizarre because he's good on top, like I said. It's just when he's off his back, it's like he's not comfortable. You know, he doesn't move well. He also got guillotine choked by Zachary Powell, who's not a horrible fighter over in Unified. But, you know, it's just like you don't love to see it. These guys that are submission wins and submission losses are always bizarre to get a read on. And yeah, I just think Hag's like one of the worst matchups in the division in LFA for him. So, give me Theo Hag. He subs him at some point, probably early. Maybe the first takedown. But yeah, Theo Hag. What a hot take. Next up, we have Arnold Jimenez versus Alan Bigoso. This is a good fight. This is at bantamweight. I guess start on the Jimenez side, 12-4. He's 31 years old, 5'8", and his reach was not listed. And then Alan Bagoso on the other hand, 9-3-1. He is 30 years old, 5'5", with a 67 and a half inch reach. I guess we could start on the Jimenez side. Like first glance, I was like, oh, I know Jimenez. He's a pretty good striker. Maybe he's worth the dog shot here. But I don't know. Like good striker, like I said, but he really doesn't let his hands go much. He's always fighting off the back foot. And he lost to Gortho a couple fights ago by decision. I think his last loss by decision. And man, he just didn't do enough. Like he didn't let his hands go. Every time he would let his hands go, he would hit him and hit him hard. But he's just not doing enough. Especially Alan Bergoso is a dog. Like I don't think you just smoke this guy with a couple shots. Like he'll be there for the 15 minutes. Jimenez is really going to struggle here. I don't think he necessarily has the enough volume and power to keep Allen off of him. And I also don't think his takedown defense is great, although it hasn't been tested in a minute. Like against Nascimento, he actually went for his own, who we're going to talk about in the main event. And he got front choked in like a minute, which isn't a great look. Nascimento's good, but you don't love seeing people get submitted that early. He beat Luciano Ramos, who's 9-12. Kian Lewis, who's 8-5, where he won by guillotine choke in like a sloppy fight, man. You shouldn't even let this dude near your hips, and that's happening, you know. And then the Tristan Lindy fight way back in the day, I got like again he won a decision, but he just isn't doing enough at times. Like he's got very good fundamental striking, but when you don't throw enough, it's really hard to get to that, you know, betting. And Bergoso, on the other hand, this dude's electric, like nasty power. You're a typical Brazilian striker, banger on the feet, like nasty power, goes for the KO with every shot. I think he's a little bit better of a grappler here. Will 100% be able to get takedowns. And also what I like is when he does get takedowns against the fence, he does a really good job of keeping you there. Like Yobak will be on the fence and he's like lacing your leg Khabib style. He's keeping you down. He always lands shots so he doesn't get stood up, you know. He does a lot on top. And maybe you'll remember him. He lost to Farid Basharat by decision on Contender Series, which again, Basharat's a good fighter, so you don't hold that against him. And yeah, I know it's like pretty chalky. This card's chalky as a whole. But I actually don't hate Baguso as a favorite here. I think it's a good matchup. I think if he is in trouble on the feet, which is probably not going to happen because he's durable and Jimenez has no KOs, I think he's fine here. I think he's a little bit better everywhere. And definitely has the finishing upside. So give me Alan Bergoso. I don't mind him as a parlay piece. Next up, we have the main event, which is at bantamweight. Rafael dos Nascimento, or Do Nascimento versus Shoya Kamikubo. I'll just call him Kubo. Nascimento, 11-3, 34 years old, 5'6" with a 70-inch reach. And Kubo on the other side, 16-2-1, 30 years old, 5'6" with a 67-inch reach. Good fight, man. Like, really good fight. I wouldn't be surprised if this fight was on, like, a UFC undercard. I guess we'll start on the Do Nascimento side. Slight dog here. He is a bit on the older side at 34, which you don't love at bantamweight, but I think he's pretty good. He's very fun to watch, has a ton of finishes. Is always looking for the finish. He's one of these Brazilian guys that has very opportunistic submission game, but I would say is definitely more of a striker, even though he has a ton of submission wins on his record. Like if you, he's got 8 submissions, which maybe that's a bad take, but just the way he fights, you know, he forces people to take bad shots, and then he will exploit their neck whenever they're in on a bad shot, stuff like that. You know, very opportunistic. And yeah, good power, even though he's only has, one KO as a pro. He's coming off of a submission win against Jimenez, who we just talked about, where he got that in a minute. Nasty calf slicer, which is a really rare submission against Brandon Altamare, who's a solid enough fighter, had good top control. But man, Do Nascimento does not settle on bottom. He really scrambles. Lost to John Sweeney, who's not a horrible fighter. Where has he been? LFA guy. Lost a decision where he went 5 rounds, which you love to see, like solid enough cardio. The concern with Do Nascimento is he does get taken down. And in theory, Kubo could take him down and lean on that wrestling because he is a wrestler himself. But I don't know, easier said than done. Like, Do Nascimento is a lot more dangerous, has really good opportunistic submissions, isn't the easiest to hold down. KO win over Justin Wetzel, who I'm not the highest on, but he was in PFL. I think he just made it to the PFL final and lost to that Brazilian guy in the final, who's a good fighter. And then also submission win against Marcus McGee back in the day. Owen's boy, if he was here, he would tell you that. Rear naked choke, like nasty back take, Marcus McGee, I know that was years ago. Good grappler, good fighter. Justin Wetzel, good fighter, good grappler. And yeah, just a bunch of wins and a bunch of fights on like the regional scene in Brazil. But yeah, dangerous, good striker, can grapple. You know, very opportunistic with submissions. Like, how could you hate that as a dog shot? And this is only 3 rounds, which I do think favors him because I think Kubo could snowball in the sense of he gets takedowns early and Nascimento is just playing from behind. But I don't think that's going to be an issue here. I guess Kubo, on the other hand, fought. He was in one championship where he went undefeated, which you love to see. Like, one has some good fighters. I don't know, though. He is very one-dimensional. He needs the takedowns. He's like a power grappler. Maybe like a Daniel Pineda a little bit, but minus those nasty front chokes and stuff. He has a good win over Eric Shelton where he out-wrestled him. But, man, Shelton's not the craziest striker, and he was boxing him up bad, which you don't love to see. Really good back take to get the rear naked choke, though. That Shelton one's really nice. And then he has a win over Mateus Santos by, like, Twister the last time, 2 fights ago in LFA. I mean, like, you love to see a guy going for those flashy submissions, but I don't know. Like, Santos does not have the grappling chops of Nascimento, so I don't really see that happening. And he lost to Long Zhao by majority decision on road to the UFC in a fight where he just didn't do enough. I don't think Zhao's horrible. But again, man, it's just like, I think I would probably pick Nascimento against Zhao. Maybe that's a bad take or a hot take, or MMA math. But yeah, Kubo definitely is live to get takedowns, and in theory, he only needs a takedown each round and holding him down. I just don't see that happening. I think Nascimento, way more athletic, way more explosive on the feet.